Welcome to this podcast in the ReModelUN podcast series. We're filming this live at the AI for Good Summit and the WSIS Plus 20 high-level event here in Geneva, Switzerland. And it's my great pleasure to have Dunola Oladapo with us here, the youth officer for ITU, dealing with everything to do with youth at the International Telecommunications Union. And a special guest today is Sneha, who is our producer here at ReModelUN. So I'm François Gray, University of Geneva, and what we have been doing with ITU for many years is collaborating on giving young people the chance to develop their digital skills. And that's a full-time job for you, Dunola. So tell us a little bit about what it means to be a youth officer at ITU.
Thank you so much for the question and for having me. I've had the opportunity to work on youth initiatives at ITU for coming up to 5 years now. And I was initially working in the BDT, which is our development bureau. I had the opportunity to work with incredible young leaders, young change makers from all over the world who bring innovative solutions to some of the most pressing and challenging issues, especially leveraging to achieve that. And I've recently started this new role now within the Secretary General's office, where I'm now helping to coordinate across the organization the different youth initiatives and to mainstream youth within the work of ITU. So the ITU is the United Nations Agency for ICTs, technology, and it's really important for us to sort of recognize young people as digital, and a lot of people are saying now AI natives, really have a unique position to use tech for good, to use, as we're in the AI for Good conference, AI for good in an innovative way that perhaps the previous generations may not have been able to. So it's really my pleasure to be able to tap into this, to be able to hopefully open doors for young people, to be able to create some of these opportunities for young people to develop, to grow, to create, to innovate, and to really contribute, to have a voice as key stakeholders in the digital development dialogue.
And you and I, Dunola, we've known each other for 5 years now, since early 2000, where ITU graciously hosted a huge MUN event, a Model United Nations event. Do you want to say a few words about why you got involved with the MUN movement?
Yes, so it was slightly before my official time working in ITU, but the legacy of that event lives on, because something incredible about Model UN in general and such initiatives is that it's basically an opportunity to learn by doing, to not be told like, this is how the UN works, this is how you participate, but you actually get to sit in that seat, you get to make the decisions, and you get to simulate basically the experience. And so it's one of the most powerful ways and one of the key takeaways from that experience that I think I still get to see every day is that we know from keeping up with some of the young people that participated, a lot of them now have really important jobs in policy. Some of them pursued studies. And they reference that experience as one of the springboards into their passion. I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but even Francois's daughter, who I understand was a key participant in that event, is now working in a very important government job where she's using technology and STEM to basically make the world a better place, which is just one example of how planting the seeds of simulating these opportunities and these experiences can actually make a difference in the life of a young person and a young leader.
Thanks for that example. I know Sneha is really interested in how all of this is impacting the youth today. You had some thoughts about that?
So as you discussed about Francois's daughter, you really believe in the power of youth and how we tend to underestimate what they can innovate. So what are some of the examples or stories that have left you inspired and that reestablishes your faith in what the young can do, especially in terms of leveraging technology for that change?
That's a great question. And just for the record, my faith in the young people and the potential of young people has never been shaken, because I've always seen how young people, especially those in the most vulnerable situations, have been able to, in lack of a better phrase, create lemonade out of lemons. So my role just before I started this new role just a couple of weeks ago now was I was the project manager of the Generation Connect Young Leadership Program. This is funded by Huawei, and ITU is delivering this project where every year 30 young people from across the world are selected and trained, brought to Geneva for a while, and given up to $10,000 each to implement a digital development project of their choice. But then we do monitoring and evaluation and help them and basically mentor them the whole way, give them the networks to even increase their investment to sustain the projects even beyond the program and so on. And I could just, off the top of my head, share some of the really incredible ideas. There was one of the young women that was creating an app to assist women dealing with gender-based violence issues in Madagascar. There was also a young man from Uzbekistan who was basically working with his local government to create solutions for water purification on a large scale for his local community. There was an incredible young man from Pakistan who basically grew up in the Cholistan region, which is a very mountainous, remote area without the infrastructure for connectivity, who was single-handedly working on a needs-based assessment and also trying to mobilize resources to bring connectivity, to bring the internet to his local community. So, and I could go on for each of the 30, because within the year you become very close with the fellows and you become invested in the projects, and several other examples of how young people were taking the initiative to basically bring the mission of ITU, which is to connect the unconnected, to life. So I think when you get to work so closely, and I'm sure Francois can relate as an educator that works with incredible young people all the time, there's no way that you wouldn't feel, optimistic about the future. But then it's just, can we please put the resources and the power into the hands of these capable, incredible, inspiring young people? So I see my role and the role of colleagues as being the facilitators for this sort of passing of the baton in a very practical way to the young people with the ideas who are just needing the resources, the connections, the support to be able to bring their ideas to life.
Fantastic. And I think that really brings us back to the beginning of the week, which we spent at the Giga Connectivity Centre, the joint ITU-UNICEF collaboration on connecting every school on the planet, an amazing venture where we had Model UNers from all over the world join us. Sneha was organizing all that. I think we're both curious to hear, in the examples you gave, specifically examples where young people are starting to use an AI, especially generative AI, that you think are pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, I think one of the most interesting projects that I've seen where young people are leveraging LLMs, like large language models, to assist, especially on issues to do with sort of mental health, because we know that loads of young people, and just people generally across the world, don't have enough access to quality mental health. So trying to train AI to be able to fill in those gaps, at least in connected areas, I think is really key. And it's great to see a lot of young people leading the way in that respect. But of course, we still have a long way to go because, of course, as we know, there are still some sort of pitfalls here and there. But I think the heart's in the right place in terms of when we know that there's such a lack of supply of this kind of critical care, because mental health is healthcare and it's just, under provided across the world, but specifically in the global south, in the LDCs and SIDS. So having young people sort of fill in this gap and train AI models to be able to better cater to those needs, I think that would really be a big game changer and disruptor in the healthcare space. And young people are leading the way.
Fantastic. I think, a lot of young people have, especially through COVID, had to deal with mental health firsthand as a very sensitive issue.
You shared such interesting examples, and I know it's just a few out of the 30.
Yes.
So maybe, I'm sure at this point, our listeners would like to know, how can they engage? And inclusion through connection is a core theme of ITU and Giga Connectivity Centre. So what would be your suggestion or takeaway that the audience can take? How can young people get involved?
Thanks so much for that question. And one thing that I would like to leave everyone with is the fact that about a third of the world's population at the moment has no access to the internet, right? And a major part of ITU's work is trying to connect the unconnected. If you're listening to this, it's likely that you're part of the lucky portion of the world that does have internet access. And I'd like to challenge us a bit to just look at it in this way. If I'm privileged to be online, I'm privileged to have access. What am I doing with that privilege? How am I leveraging that to basically contribute towards connecting the unconnected and towards potentially creating opportunities for those who don't have access to be able to access the internet and to benefit from all the opportunities that digital brings. So if you are listening to this and you're interested in this topic, please feel free to engage with ITU, engage with our work. We have Generation Connect on social media. So Generation Connect is the overall ITU engagement platform. You can find us on any social media, reach out to us directly. We would like to hear from you. And I think it's really the time for young people to lend their voice, to really have a say and to positively influence the digital development dialogue as we know it. So, yeah.
I think that's a great call to action and a great time to thank you for all you're doing for youth. Thank you, Dunola.
Thank you both so much.